I've been asked to explain something about the note combinations or chords, usually two-string chords, that we play on a fiddle in English country dance music and which can be useful. So let's start with the A and E, the open A string and the open E string. Okay. Together they make an A chord. Now it could be major or minor. If it's major, well, that often turns up in the key of D. If it's minor, well, that quite often turns up in the key of G. Now, where any of these combinations fit is really a matter of experiment. You'll just have to try, unless you know your theory and know a little bit about how chords are made, you're probably going to be guessing or doing it by instinct. But there's nothing wrong with that. Just try it out. And if a combination doesn't work, don't do it again, or at least not unless you mean to. But try some other combinations that might work. Okay, so here we are. We've got A and E, and it sounds like this. Now we've got D and A. That might be a D major or a D minor. D major, of course, turns up a lot in both of the two most frequently used keys of D and G. And we've got G and D. And it makes a G chord, or you might play it against an E minor, conceivably, but mostly a G chord. So what becomes available when we start playing with just one finger? Well, a dramatic effect is available if we play an A string with an A note on top. So if our tune goes up to an A note, we can play the string underneath and get a dramatic octave. That's an A note, that's an A string. Similarly, if we play a D note against a D string, we get the same sort of result, except now the notes are D. And of course, since we often play in G, this is a really useful one that we use quite a lot, a G against an open G. So moving on from that, let's play some of the other fifth chords that we can play. Many adults can hold down two strings at a time. So looking at the A and E strings, we can hold down a B and an F sharp using just one finger. One fat finger covers them both, or at least it covers them well enough. Somebody with very slim fingers might find that difficult, but this will work for many people. Certainly big old blokes like me. So that's a B and an F sharp. It could stand for a B major chord or a B minor chord. B major chords don't come up much, but they do appear sometimes. And then we have the E and the B. The E major doesn't turn up very much, but this stands in nicely as an E minor chord. And the A and E. An A on the G string, an E on the D string makes an A major or an A minor chord. Okay, so far we've only used one finger, or no fingers. Let's try two fingers. How about the G on the E string and the B on the A string? Well, that makes a nice G chord. Similarly, an E on the D string and a C on the A string makes a nice C chord. And if we're feeling a bit wild, we have the A and the F making an F chord. I guess it comes up from time to time. Let's go back to the B on the A string and the G on the E string making a G chord. We did that, I think, with our first and second fingers. Well, how about this? If we move to our second and third fingers and play something very similar a tone up, we get D on the A string and A on the E string. Let's go back to the B on the A string and the G on the E string. That makes a really handy little G chord. In fact, for fun, you can use your bow quite wildly to hit the G and the D and the B and the G, playing them all together, and you get quite a fun sound. Now, just thinking about the A and E strings, I think we played that B and that G using our first and second fingers. Now, if we go to our second and third fingers, then we play, got a C sharp on the A string and an A on the E string. Well, that makes us a good strong A major chord, and you'll use it in the key of D. Okay, if we have the F sharp on the D string and the D on the A string, it sounds like this, and it's a D chord. I guess it could stand in for a B minor, but you know, most often it'll be a D chord. Similarly, if we play the B on the G string and a G on the D string together, using our second, third fingers, of course, we'll get a nice G chord. Another possibility that we don't use quite so much, I don't think, is like this. For example, think of the G on the E string against a D on the A string. That makes a G chord. It's gapped, it doesn't have a third in it, so we don't know whether it's major or minor, but try it out, see it. See if you can make it work. I quite often find myself using C against a G. And that works pretty well. To make a C chord, if you wanted to, you could play a C against an F on the D string. That's F on the D string, C on the G string. Okay, the last thing I wanted to say is that sometimes you can get slides in. Now here's an example, and it's definitely something for you to explore, but if you play the open A string and then slide in to the F sharp with your first finger on the E string, so that's sliding into F sharp through F natural to F sharp, that produces quite a nice effect. So that will produce you an A and an F sharp. It hasn't got a D in it, but it's a D chord most of the time. Sometimes it might be an F sharp minor. Something similar happens if you play an open D and then slide to the B through B flat on the A string, making a G chord usually. Might be a B minor. And then again sliding up to the E against a G chord. These are all things that are quite fun to do. Just try these things out in different places and find where they work and when they don't. And when they don't, well, try something different. And finally, you can play a B on the E string against a D on the A string using your third and fourth fingers. Ditto, you could play an E on the A string against a G on the D. It's nice to be able to do. And finally, an A on the D string against a C on the G string. Well, I hope that helps. It's been an interesting exercise trying to remember what I do and trying to think of a way of sharing it with you.